all that was. It was, as I mentioned a minute ago, we don't deal very well with blank sheets of paper. And so a writing committee took their first stab at bringing a number of concerns before the House. And we discussed that thoroughly and put them back to work. In the meantime, that conversation's continued to ferment. But the document, if you managed to get your hands on one of those this morning, we are well past that. And I wouldn't believe anything that it said at this point.
It's important that you understand that this is an ongoing process, that we are working very closely with one another, whether we are on the conservative end of the church or the liberal or in the moderate middle. And we're trying to come up with something that covers what we believe as a house. And we're doing that with all dispatch, but this morning's document you can throw away.
Yeah, the same thing. Several documents are flying around or have been distributed around, but you cannot say that none of them is at this point the final document the House is going to be producing.
Stephen Bates. Oh, sorry, Stephen Bates from The Guardian of London. Bishops, how would you categorise the statement? Are you going to be able to give a full and definitive answer to the Primate's Tanzania statement on all the points that they insisted on clarification for? Or are you going to have to fudge some of them? Is it going to be a definitive statement?
I believe what the House of Bishops will do is to give as clear and straightforward an answer to the specific questions they have asked as is possible, and how members of the primates or other bodies judge the adequacy of those responses will be for them to do. But I believe that what's important is that the bishops have heard the requests, care about our relationships in the Anglican Communion very deeply, and I believe we're working toward making as full and complete and clear a response as we possibly can.
And in our discussion, we have been precisely going over each one of them and trying to be clearer into the meaning of the request and also the kind of answer that we can give that is consistent, as I said, with the polity and the constitutional canons of the Episcopal Church.
I think it's very clear from what the other two gentlemen have said. We're working forward, and it will be a clear, concise document. And forgive me, but I guess my understanding of the English language isn't too clear, because I thought fudge was something you ate.
Yes. And whoever's phone that is, could you please turn it off? David, do you have a question?
Yeah, David Virtue Online. I have received the report, and it seemed to be confirmed by the Telegraph today that regardless of what happens now, there is the belief that there is enough fudge going on, that the worldwide Anglican Church is expected to split radically by the end of the year, and that there will be a breakaway group of American dioceses that will come under their own archbishop, and you will have in fact a de facto split, because there is the belief that the Episcopal Church will not reverse itself on the significant gay issues of same-sex unions and the gays to the episcopacy and church. Do you have any comment about that?
I don't have your information. I don't really think I have a comment to that, because I don't have that information.
We don't have that information, and also we have been addressing precisely that issue as profoundly as openly as possible, recognizing the divisiveness and the controversy around it, but we are very clear that we might have some people who are not in agreement with the majority positions taken by the General Convention, both houses of General Convention, but that doesn't mean at all that we can foresee a significant breakaway or division of the Episcopal Church.
I'd also just simply add that I think the life of the Anglican Communion, not only in the last 3 or 4 years, but through our entire history, has proven over and over and over how tough the fabric of our common life really is. And while perhaps in the last few years, as well as in recent history, as well as history going back many, many decades and even centuries, we have any number of times as Anglicans experienced a hard pull on our fabric, but you know, we're a tough bunch. We're faithful to the mission and ministry of Jesus, and I believe that in the end of the day, the Anglican Communion will, in fact, find a way forward together in mission and ministry.
Melania Brashear with the Chicago Tribune. At this stage in the process, is it more? Are the disagreements more about issues, or are they more about wordsmithing? And what stage of the process are you in? And also, if you could comment on the tone of the meeting at this point. I mean, have you noticed a change or an evolution in the tone as the time has progressed?
Well, I would simply comment that the tone of the meeting has been very good. It's been a frank meeting, and frank not only between members of the House of Bishops, but also frank between members of the House of Bishops and our distinguished guests. But it has been respectful. I think it's been essentially positive. And so I would give the tone and the nature of the conversation and the way it has been conducted by our presiding bishop really very, very high marks. With respect to your first question, I think where we are now is in a place where a significant majority of the House are beginning to find a place upon which to focus. All of the details of that are not worked out. All of the clarity has not yet been pinned down, but I believe things are in fact coming into focus.
I in fact begin to believe that there's great deals of passion, but we're coalescing around the same direction and the same ideas, especially specifically to be very clear in what we say.
Yes, I will agree with that, although we have discussed about some issues of wording and ways of expressing things. The main theme of the documents we are working on go towards answering in unison and in as much as clarity as possible the concerns presented to us by the primates, by the ACC, and also, as I said before, our response from General Convention and the Executive Council of the Episcopal Church.
Barbara Bradley Haggerty with National Public Radio. If I can start here, I keep missing you. Bishop Bruno, do you see any possibility of ACUSA actually reversing course when it comes to issues like same-sex blessings, or looking to include bishops who might be first-grade bishops who might eventually, or who might prove to be in same-sex relationships? In other words, can you see reversing direction? Because that's what the conservatives want. They want you to turn back the clock. Can you see that happening?
I don't believe that we'll ever turn back the clock in that sense. I do believe that we're not responding to that right now. We're responding to the communique and the things that were asked of us. And I think that we're doing a good job of being clear and concise about responding to the things that have been asked of us. As for, are we going to withdraw our support of gay and lesbian people in the church? No, we're not going to withdraw our support of gay and lesbian people in the church. They're fully enfranchised members of our body. Are we going to do anything that will exacerbate this situation? No, I don't think we will. And that we're waiting to see how our response will be received.
Just so I understand, when you say not reverse, continue to include people, gay and lesbians, in the body,
yes,
that doesn't speak to the issue of, say, consecrating bishops.
We're going to be answering the questions that were placed in front of us by the Dar es Salaam communique.